Today we're diving into something pretty critical, something that's happening faster and faster, the degree decay curve. We're going to break down this idea that your education, your degree, is losing its value quicker than ever before. So let's get into it.
Ever felt that nagging feeling? You spend years, not to mention a ton of money, on a degree. You walk across that stage, and it feels like the ink is barely dry before the knowledge is already kind of stale. Well, you're not imagining it. It's a real phenomenon, and it actually has a name.
And that's exactly what we're talking about, the degree decay curve. So let's unpack what this term really means for you and your career.
So at its core, the degree decay curve is basically a measure of how fast your degree is losing its market value. And the main culprit here? The absolutely blistering pace of AI. Skills that were mission critical just a few years ago are now being automated or just flat out replaced by new tech. And that whole process? It's speeding up.
This really gets to a massive shift in how we need to think about education. A degree used to be this durable asset. It was like buying a house. It set you up for decades. But the new reality? It's much more like a perishable entry permit. Yeah, it gets you in the door, but it has an expiration date and you have to constantly validate it with new skills.
So what's actually causing this decay? Well, the first big factor is something we can call the shrinking shelf life. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Our professional skills are going out of date at a pretty shocking speed. The fancy academic term for this is the temporal compression of human capital. I know, it sounds super complex, right? But all it really means is that the amount of time our knowledge and skills stay relevant is being squeezed a lot. And just to give you a sense of how intense that squeeze is, think about this. Just a generation ago, the skills you learned in college were expected to last you about 30 years. Today, the average half-life of a professional skill has totally collapsed to just 6 years. 6. That means half of what you learned to do for your job could be pretty much irrelevant in just over half a decade.
And this isn't happening evenly across the board. It's hitting some fields way harder than others. Just look at software development. The half-life of those skills has plummeted from about 7 years down to a year and a half. For technical writers, it's even crazier, dropping from 8 years to just 1. This isn't a slow and steady change. It's a cliff.
But it's not just about our skills having a shorter shelf life. There's a second, even more fundamental driver here. AI is completely rewiring the actual mechanics of how work gets done.
And there are really two key things happening. First, AI is making really complex tasks way simpler. This lowers the barrier to entry, the skill floor, which in turn pushes down that extra pay a college degree used to guarantee. But second, and this might be the bigger deal, AI is automating the exact entry-level tasks that new grads have always used as their training ground. That bridge from the classroom to real-world expertise, it's being dismantled.
And what happens when you take away that bridge? You end up with what analysts are now calling a diamond-shaped workforce. Think about it. The bottom point of the diamond is super narrow, and that represents a shrinking number of entry-level jobs. It's creating this huge bottleneck for anyone who's just trying to get their career started. And this isn't just a theory. The data is pretty stark. The unemployment rate for recent grads has shot up to 9.5%, which is nearly double the rate for other adults. And in the U.S. tech sector, a staggering 67% drop in entry-level job postings. That training ground isn't just shrinking. In some places, it's basically vanishing.
So, given all this, how are employers, the people actually doing the hiring, changing their game plan? What does their new playbook look like?
Well, they're making a massive pivot. Almost 2/3 of employers are now focusing on skills-based hiring, and that means they're shifting away from caring so much about a traditional degree. They care less about where you learned something and way more about what you can actually do right now, today.
And this data right here reveals this huge trust gap. For a new grad, employer trust in that traditional 4-year degree is sitting at a pretty lukewarm 44%. Now compare that to an AI microcredential, which has a 96% trust rating. And the reason is simple, right? These smaller credentials are timely, they're specific, and they prove a candidate is up to date.
The result of all this is that we are absolutely swimming in a sea of credentials. But here's the kicker. Very few of them actually pay off. Out of more than 1 million credentials available today, a shocking 12%, only 12% are proven to give you a meaningful economic return on your investment.
Okay, I know this all sounds pretty daunting, but it's not hopeless.
The whole key is we need to shift from just reacting to this trend to actively thriving in what people are starting to call the agent tick era.
And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If the old model is broken, what does the new one look like for you personally? What can you actually do?
The strategy really requires a whole new mindset. Your degree isn't the destination anymore, it's the foundation for building a dynamic portfolio of skills. So, step 1. Double down on those uniquely human skills like creativity, resilience, and complex problem solving. Step 2. Go beyond just using AI tools and learn to master AI orchestration. That means learning how to direct and audit multiple AI systems to hit a complex goal. And finally, step 3. You have to build and maintain your portfolio by embracing continuous, just-in-time learning, probably through those micro-credentials we talked about.
You know, ultimately, the future of work is going to belong to this new type of professional, the super worker. These are the people who get that education isn't a 4-year event, it's a lifelong process. They see their degree not as some finished product, but as the foundational layer for a continuous AI-augmented education. So I guess the only question left is, are you ready to become one?